2025 Diplomatic Encounter, held under the theme of Diplomatic Outreach with National Priorities. I am Anne-Marie Lane. I am the Director General at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. For those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting, I look forward to meeting you over the next 2 days. I'm going to ask you to stand for the national anthem, and then I will introduce our Thank you. You may be seated. We start all things with a word of prayer, inviting God to be with us as over the next 2 days. I would like to invite Pastor Sherwin White of the New Bethel Seventh-day Adventist Church to say a word of prayer.
I invite you all at this time to rise as we pray. Great God of this universe, we, your people, come before you this morning, thanking you for life, thanking you, O God, for health and strength. We are so grateful for this, our nation, a place of peace and harmony, a place, Lord, where we strive for prosperity. O God, we are not isolated. We are connected through diplomatic means to countries near and far. And even as we are gathered today in this hallowed place, as we are gathered to strategize, as we are gathered here to look into the future, we ask your divine guidance. O Father, the world is in turmoil, wars and starvation, rumors of wars. There are impending threats that are out there, but we come to you, O God, asking you for strength, asking you, O God, to lead, to guide and direct. We pray a special blessing upon the leader of this our nation. We pray for our Minister Green, and all those who are aligned with him. Oh God, I pray in a special way that you will grant them the vision to lead us aright. Your word says that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to your people. Oh God, I pray that every word spoken, every action taken here today, that it will receive your divine approval. So we thank you, and when we leave here, may we leave resolute, and may we leave here with the confidence knowing that you are on our side. So we thank you, we praise you, we bless your name. Amen and amen.
Permit me to introduce our head table. The Honorable EP Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Barbuda Affairs. His Excellency Mr. Clarence Pilgrim, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Barbuda Affairs. Our featured speaker, His Excellency Martin Kamani, President and CEO of the African Center in New York. I don't want to go through all the other distinguished ambassadors because I'm sure I will forget one and that would not be acceptable. So I want to say welcome to all of you, Excellencies. Thank you for being with us here this morning. Over the next 2 days, we will have the opportunity to share ideas as we talk about how we can make our work, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the work that you do in overseas missions, do it in a more efficient and streamlined manner. We're looking for opportunities to build synergies, and so I would invite you to share your ideas over the next 2 days with us. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, His Excellency Mr. Clarence Pilgrim, to offer a few words. His Excellency is a chartered manager with a Master's of Business Administration, and over the 2 decades of experience managing various organizations in public and private sector, and is the recent recipient of a Master's of Philosophy in Management. He approaches management with compassion and fairness, with an appropriate balance of humor where applicable. Passionate about moving employees, he strives to encourage a productive, cohesive, and efficient work environment. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady, Director General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Everly Paul Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Barbuda Affairs. Permit me to follow the protocol already established by our distinguished Chair Lady. Good morning. Good morning and welcome to the 2025 Diplomatic Encounter. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today as we convene to discuss and strategize the future of Antigua and Barbuda's foreign policy and trade relations. When I recommended this year's theme, Alignment of Diplomatic Outreach and National Priorities, it was from the standpoint that the ever-evolving nature of current affairs presently exists. The global landscape is shifting rapidly. As we, as a nation, we must ensure that our diplomatic engagements remain proactive, strategic, and deeply connected to our national development priorities. In the ever-changing world of international diplomacy, we are reminded of the biblical wisdom from Proverbs 15:22. Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. This underscores the importance of our collective efforts and the invaluable insights each of you bring to this forum. As we face new foreign policy and trade-related challenges daily, the need for a cohesive, disciplined, and professional foreign service has never been more critical. Our diplomats must not only represent our nation's interests, but also embody the principles of accountability, transparency, and innovation. Regular reporting and evaluation of actions undertaken in the name of Antigua and Barbuda is paramount. A well-known Caribbean saying reminds us, one hand cannot clap. This speaks to the reality that the collaboration and shared knowledge are essential in our diplomatic endeavors. No single individual or nation can achieve success in isolation. We must work together. We must pool our resources in expertise to advance Antigua and Barbuda's interests in the global stage. Antigua and Barbuda has built a reputation as a reliable and principled partner in international relations. We will remain loyal to our long-standing friends while also promoting friendships where it is needed. Our foreign policy approach recognizes that there is an increasing interconnected world. Alliances and partnerships must be nurtured and, in cases, preserved. Our foreign policy must also remain firmly anchored in key national objectives. At the heart of our diplomatic engagements is the protection of our national security, ensuring that Antigua and Barbuda is shielded from external threats, both military and non-military. This means we must strengthen our border security, our cybersecurity frameworks, and our reliance in joining others against transnational crimes. We seek to advance our economic interests by actively promoting trade, investment, and economic cooperation to enhance national prosperity. In an increasingly competitive global market, our nation must position ourselves to be a hub of economic opportunity, fostering partnerships that create jobs, attract investments, and stimulate sustainable growth. Reflecting on the visionary leadership of our nation's first foreign minister, Celeste O'Brien Bird, we recall his words, "Our nation's strength lies in its ability to adapt and engage with the world." This sentiment resonates deeply as we navigate the complexities of modern diplomacy. Beyond economic gains, our diplomatic engagements must champion the values and ideals we hold dear. It is our commitment to democracy, human rights, and international law that ensures that our nation remains a voice for justice, equity, and good governance on the world stage. A critical pillar with respect to our national development is protection of our environment. We recognize that climate change is a scientific reality that must be addressed with urgency. Our commitment to sustainability in our environmental conservation and the development of renewable energy is clear. It is not just a national priority, it is a national imperative. As a small island development state, we must lead by example, advocating for strong global climate action while implementing innovative green energy solutions at home. Additionally, we'll continue to focus our attention on advocating for the development and utilization of the blue and orange economies. Our marine sources are invaluable. Enhancing the potential of our blue economy will allow us to sustainably manage our oceans while creating new economic opportunities. The potential for economic diversification, innovation, and job creation is great. Therefore, having said that, as diplomats, you know what our expectations are, and you know what it is we're looking for in terms of how we position ourselves on the international stage. As United Nations General Secretary Antonio Guterres, I hope I pronounced that right, said, we must act together as one world to ensure that no one is left behind. This principle must guide us as we navigate global uncertainties, advocate for our people, and position Antigua and Barbuda accordingly. Let me further indicate that equally important is the protection of our nationals abroad As globalization increases, mobility of our peoples continue, and our foreign service must be vigilant in safeguarding the safety and well-being of our citizens and businesses operating overseas. They must receive the necessary diplomatic support. Beyond our immediate concerns, we must continue to champion causes enshrined in the SIDS Antigua Agenda, the targets of Sustainable Development Goals, and our commitments to Caribbean community and the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. These are not mere affiliations. They represent the shared aspirations of small and developing states, the principles of regional cooperation, and a broader pursuit of global sustainability. There's a proverb that says, a good beginning makes a good ending. I hope I had a good beginning in welcoming you, and I look forward to a good ending of this diplomatic encounter.
Thank you, Ambassador. As we move forward in the program, I want to recognize the hard work that was put into making this diplomatic encounter a reality.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, Honorable Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and Permanent Secretary Clarence Pilgrim, Director General Anne-Marie Lane, and of course, Sir Viv Richards. It's such a pleasure and honor to be here among you today. This is my first time to ever visit Antigua and Barbuda, but certainly not my last. You are a country whose diplomacy continues to sharpen the moral authority of small states in the international system at a time when it is sorely needed. I bring greetings from my colleagues at the Africa Center in New York, where we work to forge deeper connections between Africa, its global diaspora, and the wider world. In that work, I see your country as a critical partner in your history, in your values, and in your vision. I also speak to you, as the DG said, as a member of the United Nations Permanent Forum on People of African Descent, where I presently serve as its chair designate. On the 14th and to the 17th of April next month, we will have our 4th session in New York, and I hope to be confirmed as the chair for the year. The forum advances justice, development, and recognition for communities of African descent around the world. This past Tuesday, we launched a paper on Haiti, a matter of deep concern to Kenya and to all of you in CARICOM. The forum's work on Haiti reflects our shared understanding that justice for people of African descent is realized by addressing urgent crisis with strategic clarity and rooted in moral responsibility. While serving on the UN Security Council in 2021 and 2022, Kenya, and with me as a permanent representative in the UN, consistently advocated for an approach to Haiti that was grounded in the dignity, sovereignty, and African Caribbean solidarity. That commitment continues through my work, and it is a commitment that Kenya continues to uphold by deploying security forces to Haiti. In fact, just the day before yesterday, we lost our second police officer to the gangs in Port-au-Prince. The Permanent Secretary has outlined the gathering storm that we operate in as diplomats and as public servants. I don't need to admire the problems too much. You know them all. But what is certain is that great power competition and conflict, institutional stagnation on the multilateral level, the climate threat that is an existential matter for you here in Antigua, the debt overhangs that plague my own country, Kenya, and many other countries around the world, and rising political fragmentation are converging with dangerous momentum. These challenges strike with particular force against small island developing states. What has been very heartening to me has been to see the response of the small island states and small states in general. Antigua and Barbuda remains fully engaged in shaping the responses that the world needs to the most pressing global challenges. It was here that you hosted the 4th International Conference on the SIDS. Your government advanced a framework that addresses structural vulnerability. We recognize and respect your diplomatic contributions, and there are many, but I can say for sure that my former colleague, Ambassador Webson's leadership of the Alliance of Small Island States stands out, as does Sir Ronald Sanders' service to the Commonwealth and the Organization of American States. And these just demonstrate how the diplomats and leaders from the small states direct the evolution of multilateralism with their strategic focus and persistence and their underlying powerful belief in the utility and necessity of multilateralism. I have been a colleague to Ambassador Webson in New York, and he is one of the ambassadors who is most assertive. And when I say that, it means that he represents you in a way that brings honor and respect to your country. And having said that, I think my iPad has lost power. Let me try and fix it. There we go. And to listen to Ambassador Webson speak to the various issues in New York is to really understand that Antigua does not aspire to be by the sidelines, to wait to be told what is coming ahead. But Antigua's diplomacy speaks from the front and tries to reinforce the foundations of a strained international system. In 2021, when I addressed the Security Council on the eve of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, I warned that multilateralism lies on its deathbed that night. That assessment was not rhetorical. It was rooted in the hard evidence of the erosion of collective action and the rise of unilateral ambition. Today, with territorial claims surfacing towards countries in North America and in Europe, and war deepening in the Middle East, few would dispute that the genie has been pulled from the bottle. The global order faces not only contestation, but an increasingly casual disregard for sovereignty, for negotiated settlement, and for the principle that international borders should not be changed by force. The consequences of ignoring this erosion are already visible, as new claims are pressed under the guise of historical entitlement, as precedents are set for broader border revisionism. The security of small states and regions of contested identity becomes profoundly more fragile. What I said then has only gained force now. If every grievance inherited from history were allowed to justify violent revisionism, we would be dragged back into a past we had agreed to overcome. This is why our commitment to multilateralism must be matched by a determination to reform its institutions and to defend its core norms. When Kenya joined the United Nations in 1963, a week after gaining our independence, it did so in the belief that sovereignty depends on global solidarity. That belief remains foundational, and I think it is for you as well. Today's international architecture, particularly the Bretton Woods institutions and the Security Council, must be transformed to serve a more just, inclusive, and resilient order. And I'll put it in brackets. While there may be powerful states that want to reform and shift and change the United Nations to be more in their liking, what we need to do, the rest of us, is not merely to defend the system as it is, but to say, what United Nations do we want? What future do we want? And to assert that desire for reform, deep structural reform, so that we too have our cards on the table, rather than defending a system that has often not worked as effectively for us as it should have. So, Security Council reform is a core demand of the Global South and a defining measure of whether the international system can reflect present realities rather than outdated power structures. A council that excludes entire continents from permanent representation undermines its credibility and capacity. The African position, as articulated in the Ezulwini Consensus, calls for 2 permanent seats for Africa with veto powers and 5 non-permanent seats, and with veto powers unless all veto powers are removed. This call must now become a matter of urgency, and Antigua and Barbuda, alongside other principal states, has a vital role to play in building cross-regional momentum behind this demand. Kenya's experience on the Council, particularly through the African 3+1 platform with St. Vincent and the Grenadines, demonstrated the power of coordinated African and Caribbean diplomacy. We brought forward shared positions on a host of issues, from all the files in Africa that the Security Council deals with. That includes Libya, the Sahel, the Horn of Africa files, the Central Africa files, the situations in the Middle East. And we even brought together positions as far afield as Myanmar that were informed by our own histories and values. We spoke with moral clarity and political resolve. That collaboration proved that principled positions can influence council dynamics. They can frame peace and security discussions around the lived realities of the Global South and bring consistency to the application of international law. I'll give you one specific example. In the African 3 on the Security Council, you are under tremendous pressure from the permanent 5 especially, and sometimes from your own region. And what St. Vincent told us went approximately like this. They said, as long as the 3 of you agree, St. Vincent will vote with you and will stand with you. If the 3 of you do not agree, St. Vincent will have to find the best path forward given our own analysis of the situation. This particular component was so powerful in building African unity on the Security Council. It was as if St. Vincent was daily reminding us about the call of Pan-Africanism, about our responsibilities beyond the specific file. And this is a special role the +1 can play in this system at the Security Council. It's gone off again, but now I'm almost at the end. Every time I use technology, I'm reminded that I should just go back to paper. And Guyana has followed the same role. Guyana has played the same role in the Security Council throughout this time that it has been a member. And so I think the Caribbean and CARICOM and Africa have a special destiny that I'll speak to shortly. Antigua can help institutionalize this kind of alignment. We can build a permanent mechanism for African-Caribbean coordination on peace and security, which would amplify your influence and ensure that the Security Council hears the perspectives of those who have too often been spoken for rather than listened to. For many small island states, debt distress is not a future risk, but a present condition. The global financial system must recognize that structural vulnerability is a development reality. Climate-related disasters, commodity price shocks, and external interest rate hikes generate economic instability that no responsible government can control. The Bridgetown Initiative from Barbados, or rather led and designed by Barbados and her visionary Prime Minister, provides a roadmap. Its success depends on a coalition ready to link debt sustainability to resilience, long-term investment, and justice. Antigua and Barbuda brings credibility and experience to this conversation. Debt reform should reward public investment, enable responsible restructuring, and ensure that liquidity constraints do not escalate into national emergencies. Stability and development go hand in hand. They must be treated as one agenda. A regional debt observatory housed within CARICOM or in collaboration with African financial institutions could equip small states with tools to negotiate more effectively, assess risk with independence, and advocate for a new global consensus on finance for development. Just a very quick aside, one of our main partners at the Africa Center is the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank. And they have a diaspora strategy and are actively working to provide financing in the Caribbean. And I think they are a visionary institution, and I very much hope that our work together with them, which is, we launched a diaspora center together last year, will include Antigua in the coming months and years. I believe that if you have a diplomatic expansion across Africa, in parts of Asia and South America, it will reshape the geography of cooperation. The African Union's recognition of the Caribbean as its sixth region opens space for deeper collaboration in trade, governance, and education. Africa's experiences with the African Free Trade Area, peace diplomacy, and institutional reform offer valuable models. Shared investment platforms, diplomatic coordination, and cultural exchange can give form to the sixth region as a living political project. A formalized SIDS Africa Compact, anchored in mutual interest and institutional cooperation, will enhance our global leverage and support innovation. This is an agenda ready for design and action. And I know you're hearing this because you, like other African states, have been leaving the COP conferences frustrated, shortchanged, perhaps even the wool has attempted to be pulled over our eyes, but we see what is happening, and by coming together we can be so much more powerful in that platform and associated ones. So I want to invite you now to hopefully, and I know Ambassador Webson will be in New York, to please engage in mid-April during the fourth session of the UN Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. As chair designate, I'm committed to ensuring that the forum becomes a space for political imagination and practical solidarity. And that includes linking the challenges facing Haiti and other Black majority countries to broader systemic issues, from underrepresentation in multilateral institutions to unfair trade regimes and digital exclusion. To finish, colleagues, diplomatic dignity grows from strategic clarity, consistent principles, and effective coalition building. Your work reflects all three precious qualities. Your positions on climate justice, on peace building, and sustainable development contribute to a global order that is anchored in law and equity. I hope and pray that you continue to push for reforms to the Security Council and the international financial institutions, that you fight for a development finance that responds to the lived realities of SIDS and African countries, that you invest in coalitions that speak to your interests and shape global norms, and you prioritize your relationship with the African Union, and the most forward-looking African countries who are anchoring their diplomacy in Pan-Africanism. Because this is a moment, as we were just speaking earlier with one of your countrymen, where they are forces gathering, they are uniting, they are speaking, they are trying to redraw and revise the history that is so painful and known to all of us. And so this is a time not for us to wait for them to act, but rather to come back to the grounded purpose that won us our independence and made us free peoples together. You are shaping what you want, and in doing so, offering the world a vision of justice, resilience, and sovereignty. Thank you.
With moral clarity and integrity, thank you for reminding us that our work is not done and that we can do more when we collaborate not only within the Caribbean region, but with our African brothers and sisters. I look forward to speaking with you more over the next day ahead. Colleagues, we are coming to the end, and I want to remind you at once Minister Green has concluded his remarks that we have the group photo, which we will take outside. You will be directed accordingly, so please don't leave before we take the group photo. The Honorable E.P. Chet Green, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Barbuda Affairs, has a distinguished career in public service, marked by significant contribution to Antigua and Barbuda's development and cooperation. He was born in Liberta and was educated at the Liberta Primary School. And this is something that he reminds us of often, and All Saints Secondary School, which laid the foundation for his lifelong commitment to serving his community and nation. His journey from a local advocate to a national, international leader is a testament to his dedication and vision. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Barbuda Affairs, Minister Green has played a pivotal role in advancing Antigua and Barbuda's foreign relations and trade policies. He is well known in the Caribbean, the CARICOM, OECS, and CSME, of course, in the blue economy and sustainable development. He speaks often of our need to strengthen our entrepreneurship and industry development. And of course, he has now added artificial intelligence to the issues that he speaks of. Please welcome Minister Green to the podium to deliver our closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam DG. Let me recognize this morning amongst us His Excellency, Sir Vivian Richards, National Hero of Antigua Barbuda, Brigadier Albert Benjamin of the National Defense Force, my esteemed Permanent Secretary, Clarence Pilgrim. Gotta be careful, I have two Clarences around me and I get very often I get tongue-tied with them. Clarence Pilgrim on the left, Clarence Henry on the right. Esteemed diplomats, other specially invited guests, because I have to go home after I leave here, I'll be sure and careful to recognize in the audience my dear wife, His Excellency Martin Kimani, our guest speaker, members of staff at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I pause to recognize the hard work of my Deputy Permanent Secretary, Karen Cabral, and her team in putting together all we've seen so far, last night again this morning. I think we should give a round of applause. They've assigned me not only the closing remarks, but they gave me other responsibilities of saying thanks. So I'm in a conflicted position. I'm giving an address and saying thanks at the same time. And so allow me to say thanks to a few persons who made it possible for us to be here today. With the facilities we have in place, let me thank first the management and staff of the hotel here. Thank His Excellency Sir David Shaul, Her Excellency Elizabeth McCool, His Excellency Theon Ali, as well as His Excellency Gilbert Bustani, Mr. Abdul Horani, and the Honorable Consul General Gregory Georges, and the management staff at WIOC. You will see in full time why I thank these people. On Saturday morning, remember we have an encounter Saturday morning at 9 o'clock, and they're seeing in full cry the efforts or support provided by Ambassador Gregory Georges. Let me also thank our presenters and speakers for this morning's session. And of course, you are esteemed guests, esteemed diplomats. When we were asked to sit after the national anthem, I wondered, because I do not do anything without prayers. And so when I realized we stood again for the invocation, I realized my team is fully aligned, that we are certainly on the same page in always giving God thanks. And so to Pastor White of the Seventh Adventist Church, I say thank you for being with us this morning and for bringing invocation. I want to be as brief as I can. But it has been a while since we last met. And since our last meeting, the world has changed. Changing yet is our world. And so allow me a few moments to go through what, in my opinion, should be representation of our national foreign policy, that for which we each and collectively have responsibilities. The invitation to bring all of our diplomats into a single space is intended to be a biannual function. And so I want, before you leave here today, to plan for 2027. I also asked the Permanent Secretary and staff to ensure that we have created from this encounter a robust online chat where we can meet on a daily basis to share and exchange our respective experiences. For me today, it is truly a privilege to stand before you at the opening of this our national diplomatic encounter. This esteemed gathering not only reflects our collective dedication to the noble principles of diplomacy, but also underscores its vital role in shaping our national identity and outlining our aspirations for the future. Today we embark on a profound discourse centered on the theme, alignment of diplomatic outreach with national priorities, a topic which by itself carries significant urgency as we navigate the complexities of a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. As we ponder the challenges that lie before us, we're reminded that we inhabit a world marked by shifting alliances, transforming power dynamics, and pressing global issues that demand our unwavering resolve. Climate change, economic inequality, and the promotion of human rights are not just mere concepts. They are imperatives that require our immediate attention. And it is in that context that a small island development state, Antigua and Barbuda included, we must remain steadfast and resolute, cognizant even of these dynamics, for they have profound implications for our sovereignty, our stability, and for potential development. In a spirit of reflection, I invite us to ponder on the words of the great statesman, African statesman, Kofi Annan, who once remarked, and I quote, "Diplomacy is a bridge," end of quote. Today, we stand on such a bridge, where the intricate dance of international relations requires not just skilled negotiators, but adaptable visionaries. It is therefore imperative that our diplomats possess a comprehensive understanding of international law, economic diplomacy, cultural nuances, and strategic negotiation tactics. Our human resources must transcend the traditional and typical qualifications as we seek individuals who exemplify innovative thinking and who embody the core values of our nation. I repeat for emphasis, diplomats must embody innovative thinking and must embody the values of Antigua and Barbuda. It is therefore my considered opinion that we broaden our diplomatic footprint, particularly in key regions such as Africa, Central and South America, and India. The expansion of our relationships in these areas is not merely an ambition, but a necessity. The African continent, with its vast resources and emerging markets, presents a wealth of opportunities that we must seize. Let us draw inspiration from the words of the great African leader, Nelson Mandela, who very courageously stated, and I quote, "It always seems impossible until it is done," end of quote. By fostering robust diplomatic ties, we can tap into these opportunities, ensuring sustainable practices for the support of our national economy, its survival and vitality. The relationships we cultivate in Central and South American nations are equally crucial. These partnerships can facilitate mutual growth in sectors such as agriculture, tourism, and natural resources, fields where we in Antigua and Barbuda can learn and collaborate to propel our own economic agenda forward. Additionally, the potential partnership with India, particularly in the areas of technology, education, and sustainable energy, hold transformative promise for our nation's future. I'm not suggesting, not for a moment, that we neglect the importance of nurturing our existing relationship with Europe, China, and the USA. Each of these regions play a pivotal role in our economic landscape, presenting us with avenues for investment, infrastructure development, and collaboration and resilience against climate change and disasters. I encourage us to draw inspiration and encouragement from the words of a noted global leader, Winston Churchill, when he says, and I quote, "To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents," end of quote. I humbly suggest that this moment is ours to seize, and one that we must do with resolve. Equally paramount is a commitment to multilateralism. Our guest speaker elaborated on the challenges and benefits of multilateralism. Our foreign policy must embrace, as a matter of course, support for multilateralism. This very valuable mechanism allows small island states like ours a voice in the international arena and a seat at the table. In an interconnected world, multilateral frameworks such as the UN, CARICOM, and the OAS enable us to collaborate with larger nations, amplifying our concerns and perspectives. by uniting us and uniting with others, through these platforms, we can address critical issues that disproportionately affect small island states, advocating collectively for climate action, sustainable development, and health security. As we engage in deliberation and strategy formulation today and tomorrow, I urge every one of us to remain steadfast, resolute in our commitment to our diplomatic mission, to the ideals of Antigua and Barbuda, and the importance attached to our duties in national service. Our efforts must align with the aspirations and needs of our citizens, reflecting priorities that include sustainable development, healthcare access, education, and the preservation of our cultural heritage. Let us therefore today reaffirm our dedication to fostering a diplomatic environment that is proactive, inclusive, and profoundly responsive to the needs of our nation. Together we possess a formidable strength, an unyielding commitment to creating a united voice on the global stage that echoes the aspirations of our people, propelling our economic interests while ensuring that our concerns for small island urban states are not just acknowledged, but are prioritized in global dialogues. I implore each diplomat in this room to raise the standard of our individual and collective efforts, and to do so as our anthem requires, boldly. Let us answer to the call of duty with unwavering courage and a vision that is as expansive as it is inclusive. Together we can forge a path towards a future ripe with opportunity, equity, and sustainability, not just for Antigua and Barbuda, but for all nations navigating the intricacies of our shared planet. Our foreign policy, therefore, I submit, must be an embodiment of our Caribbean civilization and our shared ambition of resilient prosperity. We look forward to hosting the OAS Assembly later this year and the Commonwealth Heads of Government next year. These two diplomatic engagements, like the SIDS conference last year, serve as important imprints into the international diplomatic tapestry of our small island's contribution to global civilization. And very much like Sir Viv, we come with value and undeniable impact. Diplomats, colleagues, fellow citizens, we are at the crossroads. Global diplomacy, matching efforts in regional and domestic diplomacy, requires us today and tomorrow to come with open minds, to fashion policies, reinforce diplomatic tenets enshrined in our diplomatic principles established in 1981 when we became independent. Some things have changed, some have not. The moving parts dictate we find a way to keep Antigua and Barbuda's diplomatic presence on the global stage relevant. We have heard from our guest speaker of the level of diplomacy that we offer to the world. As I said, this encounter should be that moment when we collectively put our heads together to fashion responses to the changing environment. The geopolitical space or reality today dictate nothing less. Be it the issue of the Cuban professional workers whose services we depend on in this country and other Caribbean nations, be it the threats of sanctions, be it the impending policy changes in Washington that will impact adversely cost of living in our country, we as national diplomats representing Antigua and Barbuda in various capitals, and some even from our home base, have an opportunity today to fashion responses and policies which would make our country or keep our country rather, as a leading country where diplomacy is concerned. Small though we are, we will draw from the examples I quoted before of an outstanding Antiguan. Well, there are several, but I use one in today's example. So Viv, from a small country, he gave the world a brand of cricket never before seen, never since seen. Our diplomats, it's up to you. Craft and fashion policies and programs that will keep Antigua and Barbuda as a leader within the Caribbean context and certainly on the global stage. God bless. Before I take my seat, my final bit was to make a presentation to our guest speaker. I told from the start that I'm doing a number of things today. And so let me invite our guest, our brother from Ghana. Kenya. I'm all over the continent now. To receive from us at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, on behalf of all our diplomats, a token of appreciation for your having consented to be our guest speaker at this year's Diplomatic Forum. Again, we welcome you, and we hold to your words. Your first visit, not your last.